Yo, 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 what's up? It's the Bleacher Boys. We are back for week 2 of the NFL season, week 3 of the college football season. Gab, buddy, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Everything's just football season. We're in the kick of it. My Florida Gators are awful. And
Yeah.
the Packers are good, and my fantasy teams are struggling. So, hey, man, it's football season. What else can you say? I
Well,
know I talked to our new and improved behind the scenes guy. We'll just call this guy Nicholas. For all you viewers out there, it's Murphy, not EY. So Nicholas has got that getting fixed. So we're good to go, baby. We're ready to rock and roll.
yeah, brother. I mean, it's kind of a bittersweet season for me so far in college and
Yeah.
NFL. My Canes are looking strong right now. Carson Beck is looking a little bit better than I thought he'd look. And the only reason I thought I wasn't sure just because he had the what was it, elbow injury? I think he had an elbow injury in the playoffs last year that
Yeah.
didn't look great. And then he moves to Miami, he gets his Lambo stolen, his girlfriend breaks up with him. Like, it just wasn't looking good. But he's looking good, and Miami's looking a lot better this year. They're looking like they could
Yeah.
be a first seed right now in the college playoffs. But my Chiefs are 0-2. I'm not overly concerned. They're down a wide receiver one. Xavier Worthy will come back for week 3. Uh, Patrick Mahomes has played great. The defense played better, but their weapons just look a little depleted. We'll touch on that more, but I think they need to trade for Kenneth Walker III or Breece Hall, since those guys are kind of secretly on the trading block this year, because their running game is just not explosive. And Mahomes has never had a 1,000-yard rusher in his career, which is crazy to
hmm
think about. And literally every other quarterback has had at least one that's noteworthy. Um, but we're just gonna go through the docket of games, touch on all of them if we can. There's a couple of ones that are like, not really noteworthy, but we'll see when we get there. We want to start off with the Thursday night special, which was the Commanders going down to the Packers and Lambeau, and Green Bay looking pretty commanding. I think Green Bay won 27-18, but the game
hmm
really looked like a wider margin than that. Man, what are your thoughts and notes and takeaways from that game?
Yeah. No, it definitely was. If anybody watched it, it definitely was. It was a beatdown. I think 27-18. If you just look at the final box score, I don't think it does it justice at the dominance that was the Packers in that game. Um, I don't want to overreact to the struggles of, what you're hearing out of, all these analysts and all these guys about, the Commanders are down. It's a bad year. Especially now with Austin Eckler being out with an Achilles. And then you just got rid of Brian Robinson. So, I think that game, I think it shows you the dominance that is Micah Parsons. And I guess maybe not the dominance, but the game changer and the way that he impacts games, and how crucial that is to have on the defensive side of the ball. And then I think it also shows you the weapons that the Green Bay Packers have. I mean, I think it was Tucker Kraft who said it in the post
Yeah.
game, if my memory serves me right. And he said, we call ourselves a 5-headed monster. I mean, anybody can get you at any time. It very similar to a Lions team from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That just anybody can get you, whether it's Jameer,
Yeah.
whether it's Demont. I
Even
mean,
last year.
yeah, I mean, even last year, I mean, personally, I thought the offense was a little bit
Yeah,
better 2 years ago, but still,
I agree.
regardless, nonetheless, I mean, so it just shows you, I mean, Tucker Kraft, a tight end, and he goes off for 6 receptions, 124 yards and a tutty. I mean, that's impressive out of your tight end position. Jordan Love, 19 for 31, 292 yards, and then 2 touchdowns. So it's interesting. The one thing I will say, and I don't know if you've seen this or not, but the reports coming out of the Packers camp, and we can maybe touch on this, but apparently Matthew Golden is not very happy at this point in time.
I haven't seen any of that, but I just think he probably thought, being a first round draft pick, that he was going to be, I guess, more of a focal point, especially because there was no
hmm
real alpha now. Number one, Kurt was out before the season. Not Christian Kirk. Christian Watson was out before
Mhm.
the year even started. You kind of know Josh Jacobs is like the dude in the running game. He's their workhorse. He had
Yeah.
like 9 straight games of scoring a touchdown, which is a crazy
Yep.
stat to think about. But honestly, their wide receiver, a lot of people were saying, well, they don't really have an A+ guy, but they have a lot of A-
Mhm.
and B+ guys. But they have a wide receiver by committee, but honestly, it's one of those type of things where one, he's a rookie and he hasn't really even established himself. And maybe he's like, well, if I got the targets, I would establish myself. But it's like, man, you hate to tell players to just shut up and fall in line, but it's like this team is looking to have a special team, and you never know when you're going to pop. And it's like,
Yeah.
if you're a wide receiver and you finish out the year strong and go into the playoffs and you have a great showing in the playoffs, it's like that's all people are really going to remember. So it's like,
Mhm.
man, fall in line and make sure you're going in the same direction as where the rest of the team is going, and don't be an AJ Brown of what was on Philly last year, because
Yeah.
AJ Brown already has the All Pros to his name. But I think with this pack, I put money on the Packers to win this division this year. I just thought there's going to be a little bit of turnover with the Lions, and they had a big bounce back this year. And I thought the Bears are just going to have some hurdles to get through and things to work through, and they weren't going to catch stride. And I was just unsure about the Vikings, and I know JJ McCarthy went down, is going to miss out a week or so. But I
Mhm.
just thought last year, I was a year early on the Packers, and I thought
Mhm.
last year just it was more of Jordan Love battling through injuries. And I think we saw a
Mhm.
lot of that. I just think really the only difference is the team is because they also had the youngest core team 2 years ago when they beat Dallas in Dallas. And I think a lot of those guys are grown up. They're pros. They're veterans now and not first or second year players. And I think Jordan Love is fully healthy. And we just see the team firing on all cylinders. And I think last year, I was just 1 year early and a little bit of the Jordan Love injury bug early on them. And I don't think it's more indicative of where the Commanders necessarily are.
Mhm.
But Jaden Daniels is definitely on sophomore slump alert. I don't think he's like quite on pumpkin alert yet, and I think there's more due to Cliff Kingsbury's offense seems to be getting picked up pretty quickly. And when you're in
Mhm.
short yardage position, you're always in the gun, and
Mhm.
you're not able to line up in power formation and get those tough yards like a lot of teams do outside of the Chiefs. I think that can be a real problem for a team and a young quarterback going forward.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
All right. So with that being said, let's move on to the second game of the day, which was the Giants going to Arlington, Texas to face the Cowboys. I don't know if they're really God's team or America's team anymore,
Mm.
but the Cowboys pulled it out with a big, uh, possibly their second best weapon on their team, or maybe their biggest weapon on their team. Brandon Aubrey kicking 60 and 65-yard field goals like they're extra points and making it look crazy. But the Cowboys, I think there was 5 lead changes in the fourth quarter. Russell Westbrook seemed to have like a throwback game, had a couple of nice deep passes for touchdown to Malik Neighbors, and another wide receiver. I forget who the other wide receiver was, but he had 2 big 50+ yard TD. Dak Prescott looked great, pretty much from wire to wire. And honestly, Dak has had back-to-back games of looking very, very solid. I know CD had a couple of drops in his first week. CD had a nice bounce back game. George Pickens caught a nice touchdown as well. So I thought the Cowboys looked solid in this game. I think they looked solid in week one. Giants are at 0-2, and I think some of the Jackson Dart chatters kind of calmed down a little bit, at least for 1 week, New York. But what were your takeaways from the game?
Yeah, no, man. Russell Wilson, I think it was actually career highs for him in yards. I mean, 450 yards through the air
Yeah.
is impressive. And then you got
Yeah.
Dak Prescott with 361 in the air. I think and just talking about the quarterback play, I think it's more so, I don't want to buy like enough stock in either one of them just yet. I think it's more so, I think the secondaries are worse than what they're going to go up against the rest of the year, personally. And so I think it's something to watch for the rest of the year as teams go into Dallas and teams go, to New York and play, and how they get diced and picked apart. I can tell you it's a great year to have CeeDee Lamb on your team if you're in fantasy, and Malik Neighbors, because they're gonna have to air it out the entire time.
Yeah.
Wan'Dale Robinson was the other guy.
Yeah.
8 receptions for 142 yards and a tutty. I think the other thing that was nice to see, and I know there's a lot of people out there that are a big fan of his, but Cam Skattebo kind of coming
Yeah.
onto the scene, getting his first touchdown, averaging 4.1 yards a carry. I mean, that's good stuff in your second game. And you saw where he dominated the carries 11-5 over Tyrone Tracy. Also on the running game, the other thing that did surprise me is Javonte Williams having another good game
Yeah.
running the ball. That one
Yeah.
shocked
Shout
me.
out to
I
him.
did not see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one's taking a lot of people by storm. So I'm curious to see how those two play out. Like we always say, week 2, it's still growing pains. You're still learning. Week 4, people start to really round out. You can really start to get a landscape of what the NFL is looking like long term for the rest of the season. So I'm curious, man. But yeah, Dallas has got a hell of a kicker. What are they calling him right now? Big Dick. What is it? Big Dick Aubrey or something? Something
I don't
crazy.
know.
Yeah, they're going. Yeah, they're going
Whatever
crazy
nickname
over
he's
him.
got, I'm sure he deserves.
Yeah, it's good for them. Good for them. But
And
yeah, man, on to the
one
next
thing
one. Go ahead.
one thing I'll say about Dallas real quickly is that I, I'm for the time being, I think at least in the first half of the season, I'm going to buy stock into their offense because I think their weapons are legit. CD is obviously a bona fide number one. George Pickens may be one of the better, at least wide receiver 2 options in the league. His
Uh-huh.
production, we'll see whether his production actually adds up to that. A sleeper guy that I actually have on my fantasy team in our league that I've sat on the bench for 2 weeks. Um, Only because I have Brock Bowers. No, sorry, not in our league. In my other league, I have Jake Ferguson, but he's had
Mhm.
back-to-back like high scoring weeks, and I think it's just a fantasy nugget out there. Jake Ferguson has gotten like 7+ targets in his first 2 games, and I don't think that's going to slow down. He had the injury bug last year, so did Dak. And then even
Mhm.
when Jake Ferguson came back, Cooper Rush just wasn't a big fan of Jake Ferguson. But if your
Mhm.
guy, if Jake Ferguson is sitting there in the waiver wire and he's not already snatched up, you should go and snatch him, because I don't think his
Mhm.
targets are going to go down any lower. And he's had 80+ yards in both games he's played in. And Dak has tried to throw the ball his way 4 different times for a touchdown, only connecting for one. The other 2 out of the 3 were close. But I'm with
Mhm.
you. Dak is always well above average. That always looks like the 5th to 10th best quarterback when he has a strong running game. And thus
Mhm.
far, at least scoring production wise, Williams is providing a lot of good juice for them. So if that trend continues, whether it's yards or touchdowns, I would expect Dak and their offense to look very, very good. And like I said, Brian Schottenheimer, their head coaches, I'm sure is helping call plays. He's more of an old school guy, so they're going to try to continue to keep the run going, a lot of play action, and you'll see a lot of big, top end plays where CD Pickens are going deep, and Javonte's, hopefully getting you 4.5 to 5 yards per rush.
Yeah.
With that
Dak
being
is
said,
a
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say Dak is there's 2 people in the league that I think are very good play action quarterbacks, and we'll move on. And that's Dak Prescott and Geno Smith. I think they're 2
Yeah,
of probably the best play action quarterbacks in the NFL. So I'm curious to see, man, how it shakes out. And so yeah, we'll
yeah.
keep going though.
We'll get to see week 2 Geno in a couple of hours, because week 1
Yes.
Geno looked really, really good, and Brock Bowers is going to play in this game. So we'll get to see what the Raiders look like against the best scoring defense from last year, who held the Chiefs, in check in week 1 as well. So Geno's going to get a good litmus test in just a couple of hours here to see, how he and that offense really look for the Raiders. Which
Mhm.
I'm going to guess they're still going to look pretty decent, but that's more pertaining on to see if Genty is actually going to get more than 40 yards this week.
Yeah.
With that being said, uh, we're moving on to the Seahawks and Steelers game. The Seahawks went into Pittsburgh and kind of put it on them. Not necessarily a strong offensive thumping, but they won convincingly 31-17. Aaron Rodgers still looks solid in this game. I know Calvin Austin III, he's a local Memphis kid. A lot of people love him. A lot of people root for him. I thought when I saw the play happen that he ran a route. Aaron Rodgers mentioned it post game. He didn't throw the kid under the bus, but he just mentioned like, hey, like he did run the wrong route and got mixed up, and that's kind of what led to that red zone interception. But again, the Seahawks are another team that I picked and put money on to win their division, and I thought it was going to be because they were going to have I think they're going to have a top 5 defense, which they've showed that so far. And I thought Kenneth Walker, Charbonnet, and Sam Darnold were going to be good enough, to get them 20-ish points a game, which I think is all they're going to need because I don't see them giving up more than 15 to 20 points a game with the defense they have. But what were your takeaways from this game, man?
Yeah, I didn't get to watch a lot of it. I just kind of caught a lot of the highlights of it. There's two things, and I think it pertains to me. Well, first of all, kudos to Aaron Rodgers. I know he made history in that game with his what number touchdown was it to DK? It was like 5 something, right? If memory served me
I think
right.
it's 500. Yeah.
Yeah, so,
I think we're number
kudos
500.
to him. Yeah, kudos to him, man.
Yeah.
Hats off. He looks good. But the thing that is very surprising to me is the running back rooms in both of these places. One with Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker, didn't have as many touches as Charbonnet, and still, I mean, he looked like he's the guy that we thought he was.
Yeah.
2 years ago, last year even. I mean, so he's looking like he's poised for another one. The guy always battles the injury bug. That's personally why I just can't buy the stock into it. I
Yeah.
made that mistake in fantasy this year, and we'll get to that. But the other one is, are you hitting, and this is a question for you, if you are a Steelers fan, are you hitting the panic button on Caleb Johnson?
100%.
Okay,
And
yeah.
to the point where I saw it theorized with some people, and I would buy stock into it. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a healthy scratch for this week
Mm-hmm,
because he wasn't explosive in preseason. He hasn't really shown us anything in 2 games. And then you have a huge, even like I'm not an NFL football player, and I know I mean, probably because every analyst has been talking about the new kickoff rules. But the
mm-hmm,
Steelers have a very good, one of the best special team coaches in the NFL. He's a pretty household name. And so for Caleb not to know that when you kick the ball in the landing zone, which is a new rule this year, that even if you don't touch it, the other team can pick it up, even if it goes in the end zone, and have a
mm-hmm,
7-point swing like that. That's it, especially with Mike Tomlin kind of being the guy he is. I'm sure he's motivating the kid and giving him, good, healthy accountability. But I think part of that goes into, hey, kid, we're going to sit you down for a game because you probably cost us that game and the kind of point momentum swing that was. So, you know, I think they drafted him in the 2nd or 3rd round, so it's kind of hard to call him a bust. But the kid has not looked impressive, and when Jalen Warren is your RB1, he's kind of more of a change of pace back than a workload back. The I think the two, and I texted Rod this morning, not even thinking about the podcast, but their offensive line does not look good in the first 2 weeks.
mm-hmm.
Uh, their running back room has been one of the worst through 2 weeks. And their defense hasn't really been able to truly stop anybody outside of a couple of, marquee plays at the end of that Jets game to kind of save the game. So it's like, what did the Steelers really look like to you? They're probably going to be a team that you have to wait about halfway through the season to kind of see what team they're really going to be, because they've showed us a lot of the same through 2 weeks with 2 drastically different results.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I agree. It's interesting to see because the the talent that they have on the defensive side of the ball for them to be as mediocre as they are right now, it's kind of shocking. Um, but I agree with you. I think it's going to take some time to see where they're at. On the other hand, I think, Seahawks maybe coming into their own, maybe too early to tell, but I think JSN, is, a surefire wide receiver 1. I like what Sam Darnold did. You just would like to see the picks kind of go away. But we'll see. We'll see on those two. I'm not I'm not panicking on either one of them just yet. Just panicking. I'm agreeing with you on the Caleb Johnson. I'm hitting the panic button if I'm a Steelers fan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, so we'll touch on this game. Not a whole lot to take from it. The Rams go into Nashville and take down the Titans 33-19. Honestly, really only my two takeaways is the Rams offense with Stafford in there, and the big question in his years is he going to be healthy and his back holds up? Because if he's healthy and his back holds up, they're definitely a playoff team, and they're definitely have a strong. They're winning that division right now, or at least tied with, I guess, the 49ers so far, with the Seahawks right behind them. So it's like, if Stafford is healthy, that team is a playoff team. If they're not healthy, they're probably not a playoff team. That probably goes for every, team with the franchise quarterback right now. But a pretty convincing win. All the takeaway is that, and their defense looked good and their weapons looked good. Devontae Adams had a big game. Kyrie Williams had a big game. Puka Nacua had a big, I think like 50, 55-yard run early in the game to kind of get things going for them. Cam Ward, the Titans looked better and
Mm-hmm.
more like put together this game, and it's like, but it's still a lot of Cam Ward looks really, really good for a rookie in a second game, but there's a lot of talent deficit on every level outside of maybe running back on that team, and it's like they need 15 first round draft picks next year.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really all my two takeaways from that game.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on everything you said with the Rams. Devontae Adams, at whatever age he is still the best route runner in the NFL. I think you just got to give it to the man and his
Yeah.
footwork. Puka Nacua looks like Puka Nacua from 2 years ago. Stafford looks like he hasn't lost a step. If he stays healthy, they are primed. I think they're primed to be a playoff team. The thing I think that scares me if you're a Titans fan is Cam Ward another number one overall pick that's gonna be wasted. Is that your thought? Is he gonna fall into the category of what ifs? Because you saw it. I mean, what's the rookie receiver? Neymar, or whatever.
Yeah.
Alec.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me find
He
it
has a
here.
weird name.
Io Manor is how you say
Yeah.
it. They found a connection, but you got Calvin Ridley. It's like, not loving it. Van Jefferson never can buy stock in. The other one that's kind of surprising is the lackluster play from the tight end, and Okonkwo. But I think it's the Titans are 2-3 years, like you said. They need 15 first-round picks next year, or they need to trade all their first-round pick. I don't know what they need to do, but they need to do something and get somebody in there quick. They need to get
Yeah.
some game changers in there.
And the Titans are still under relatively new ownership. They changed ownership just a couple of years ago,
Mm-hmm.
when they ousted Mike Vrabel. This year about the Titans will just be the development of Cam Ward, and then like they probably need to double their scouting staff in the college and the pro ranks. And they need to win the offseason. Whatever that means, is that's with the draft and bringing in free agents. You hope that there's a couple of like wide receivers that are kind of like a dead end teams that are like, I want to go play for Cam, because him running all the way to his right and throwing the ball 70 yards all the way to his left on a
Mm-hmm.
dime for a touchdown is like, there's maybe four guys in the NFL that can do that.
Yeah.
I don't even think that's even a play that Joe Burrow can make as great as he is. So it's like, you know, they need to win the offseason. That's all we'll say.
Mm-hmm.
We'll move on from that
Yeah.
topic. Next game, Bills versus Jets. Again, not really anything a whole lot to take away from. The Bills kind of manhandled them. I was surprised the Jets even got 10 points. Justin Fields went out with a concussion early in the game, I think towards the end of the first quarter, early second quarter, and they were kind of treading water. Uh, I think, again, it's something I kind of said in the preseason. It's odd how the Bills got like the second easiest schedule in the NFL behind the San Francisco 49ers as a first place team. And they are really benefiting from getting to play the Jets and the Dolphins twice a year. This should be a year where the Bills finish first in the AFC, because the
Uh-huh.
Chiefs look down. The Ravens are going to have a tough schedule. The Chiefs have a tough schedule. The Chargers, even though they were a second place team, they're going to have a tough schedule just because of the division. This should be a year where they have first place locked up with 1 or 2 games to go, and that should be the litmus test for the Bills this year. Is
Mhm.
AFC wrapping up, giving your starters some time to rest to head into a healthy playoff season? Because if they're going to make a Super Bowl the way the AFC looks right now, this should be the year they make the Super Bowl. So
Mhm.
that's kind of the Bills season should really be about this year. James Cook looks great. People were kind of expecting Shakir to kind of break out. He's kind of been under wraps through 2 games. Maybe he breaks out, but they have, again, a great offense, a defensive head coach, and that's really, I think, my kind of market of what I'm looking for to see out of the Bills this season.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I don't think there's much left to be said. Cook looks like Cook. Everybody was saying he's gonna have a down year, this, that, and the other. I mean, he looks like he hasn't missed a beat. He's picking up right where he left off. So yeah, no, I mean, I think we can wrap up that one and pretty much move on. The Bills are.
Yeah.
I told you, and I think it's the year.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I don't
Yeah.
know, but we'll
Yeah.
keep on going. We'll keep doing this every week.
But and I will say this, how the Bills are looking and how easy their schedule is, I think that's going to work against Josh Allen in MVP voting this year. And I looked at the odds this morning, and Josh Allen is actually like 8th or 9th in MVP odds this year, just because I
Mm,
think they're going to be in so many blowout games. They have such an easy schedule that how he won his MVP last year is
mhm.
is going to work against him this year. And I think it's going to
Yeah.
be somebody like Patrick, Justin. If you want to put money down, I think Justin Herbert is like 3rd in odds right now. If they can beat Patrick Mahomes and win the AFC West, and he has a 4,000-yard, 38 touchdown, 40 touchdown year, and throws him some rushing yards with his lack of weapons and a great defense, Justin Herbert might be a guy you might want to put your money on to win MVP this year. Just throwing
Mhm.
that out there. And I'm not a Justin Herbert guy whatsoever. Moving on. Patriots taking down the Dolphins. This was,
Mhm.
if you were watching the game, it was at least an entertaining game because it kind of went back and forth. You had, I think, a good punt return and then a good kick return. I get a good punt return by the Dolphins that put them in great fielding position, and great kick return by the Patriots that put them back in great field field position to score a touchdown. Drake May still looks like he's kind of finding his way. The Patriots defense looked a little bit better. They still look at a talent deficit with weapons. Fun Diggs hasn't really popped. We haven't gotten the Trayvon Henderson, pop yet. But Ramondre Stevenson looked great from last year. And he was 1,000-yard, double-digit touchdown guy last year. So, shout out to Ramondre for having a great game. He had probably the catch of the week this past weekend with his like 60-yard reception. But I think this game was a little bit more about the Dolphins, and that it's
Mhm.
like Mike McDaniel's hot seat is getting hotter.
Mhm.
How long does Tyreek last year? You kind of question the Jalen Waddle, 1st-round draft pick. They drafted him 6th overall. He's a very nice wide receiver too. But having 2 kind of redundant guys when your quarterback can't throw deep and having to run slants all game. And I think the one deep pass they did have was kind of like I said with Tua. The wide receiver runs 60 yards, Tua throws it 52 yards, and the wide receiver has to kind of wait for the ball and hope that the DB overruns him and catches it backside. I think the one kind of note is just actually talking to Andre Ford about is Devon Achane looks good, and I'm seeing through 2 games why a lot of the fantasy guys had him ranked so high on every draft board. It's because
Mhm.
no matter what, especially because Tua checks down so much, Achane gets like 25 touches every game. And he's such a
Mhm.
speedy and shifty guy. He does something with the ball when he has it in his hand. But what are your takeaways from this game, man?
Yeah, no. I think you're one game away from a hit on Tua to see Quinn Ewers take over that offense and probably be a little bit better. You can clearly see the notable frustration from Tyreek Hill on Tua's inaccuracy. I think it's just a bad mix, and it's no knock on. I mean, it's no knock on Tua as a person. It's just him as a football player and a quarterback in the NFL. I don't think he's good. I think it's time to move on. But I'm curious to see it. I'm curious to see how the running back room shapes out in New England. Um, I know Vrabel is a bigger fan of Travion Henderson than he is of Ramondre. Hot take here, I could see Ramondre and some trade talks coming up
Yeah,
as the season
especially while his
progresses.
value's high.
Yeah, you get him while the value's high right now. Somebody that needs it. That's my hot take on this week. But nah, man, I think the Dolphins are a last place team. Yeah, it's just you're going through the same shit, and I don't know. I think it's poor. I think it was poor drafting. I think it was a mix of both poor drafting and missing in the offseason. I think they should have probably tried to get rid of Tyreek when they could have. And I still think you can. So it's going to be
Yeah,
interesting, man. But I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any really notable like take homes from that. Just my hot take that I think Ramondre is on. There's going to be some trade talks on Ramondre here soon.
yeah, I like that take. I think the Steelers. The Steelers and the Chiefs, I think there's one more team for sure need a running back right now. So
Mm-hmm.
again, I think between Brees Hall, Kenneth Walker III, maybe Seattle just sees themselves like, hey, we're gonna win this division. We need all the horses we get. So maybe they pull Kenneth Walker unless they get just a can't miss deal. But then maybe Ramondre, kind of takes that trade value slot, in the market for him. Um, I
I
think
could
my
even see
last
it being Washington.
yeah, Washington, Eckler going down, great point. There's 3 teams right
Mm-hmm.
there. 3 teams, 3 running backs that are on the board. We'll see what happens by the trade deadline, especially if Washington is still in playoff contention. If they kinda clunk out, then maybe they don't pull the trigger on that. But I can
Uh-huh.
see if they're still in playoff contention, they feel like they need a spark to push them over. Hey, why not bring a power back in or change the pace back in to kinda shake some, things up to give themselves in that division. Because the Eagles, even through 2 weeks, they the offense looks like concerning. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it does outside of Saquon, especially if you're going to try to preserve Saquon. But I know they got Tank Bigsby in the trade, so that's not going to be too hard to try to preserve Saquon. But their offense looks like kind of shaky, and AJ Brown still only has 5 targets through 2 weeks. Like my hot take preseason, I think is going to come true to where he's reading a book and dropping some gems in the post game if he has 60 total yards through 3 games.
Yeah.
But my final take is I think the biggest mismanagement of the Dolphins was them being in limbo with the Tua contract talks. I think they should have just let that play out, and if Tua their biggest thing is they didn't value the backup quarterback a whole lot, and it's like if you brought in a Gardner Minshew or Mac Jones to give him some competition, and maybe or a safety blanket, maybe that helps them out. Paying to top tier money to be as a C plus C B minus quarterback is probably was career suicide for Mike McDaniel. And that's all I'll say on that. Moving on to a game that was a good game, kind of sloppy on both sides. But I think 2 things happened in this game that I saw, and I'll bring it and I'll pass it over to you that I think are more bigger storylines to cover. I'll go with the bigger elephant in the room, Joe Burrow going down with a turf toe that needs to have surgery. And like I saw from a couple of like real medical doctors that said it's kind of not typical that quarterbacks have season-ending turf toe. It's just not normally a quarterback injury. It's normally like a skill position injury. So it's like Joe Burrow now is his 3rd season-ending surgery in 6 years, and it's Joe Burrow. The talent is not to be questioned, but Joe Burrow, the Hall of Fame player? Question mark. Joe Burrow, the franchise quarterback you can rely on? Definitely a question mark. And I think if Jake Browning comes in and kind of has a solid season and with these weapons, it's like, you know, do both sides come to an agreement to like Joe Burrow get into a situation that with a team that has a better offensive line and do the Cincinnati Bengals look at offsetting that contract to maybe push that money around somewhere to make their team better? And I think
Mhm.
on the Jacksonville Jaguars side, you saw honestly like a blow up between Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence, of Liam Cohen wanting Trevor Lawrence to do some things and him quiet not doing some things. And then Liam Cohen was asked about Brian Thomas Jr., like, what's he giving up and avoiding contact in some plays? And is that an indictment on Brian Thomas, or is Trevor Lawrence throwing up some floater balls that could potentially get his wide receivers killed? So it'll be interesting to look at how both of these things play out, because I do have money on Jacksonville making the playoffs this year. But
Mhm.
if Trevor Lawrence is not the guy, you would think after Liam Cohen coming in, it's like, if Trevor Lawrence is not the guy, then what is next for Jacksonville?
Yeah, no. First I'll start with the Bengals. I do agree with you, and we kind of talked about it off camera a little bit, but I think there's a lot of question marks on Joe Burrow and his tenure in Cincinnati after this one. It's tough. It's a tough look. It's heartbreaking for if you're a Cincinnati fan. Um, there's weapons, dude, and Browning looked good. I mean, he didn't look bad by any stretch of the imagination. Got the ball to Jamar a good amount of times, which is what you need to do when you're the backup. Just feed it to the guy that's a playmaker. So curious to see how it shakes out there. And only time was going to answer that question. I have been seeing a lot of talks of the hospital balls that Trevor Lawrence has thrown up, and the one hit in the preseason that looks to have Brian Thomas a little bit rattled and a little bit in his head of, am I going to die? Am I going to be the next Chris Olave? Um, Interesting, man. It's very interesting, and I'm not beyond saying a really, really hot take, like burning stove take here. Trevor Lawrence is out in Jacksonville after this year. They try to send him somewhere, and you're looking at kind of a revamp with a third year next year, a third year Brian Thomas, a second year Shaw Tutton, a whatever year Travis Etienne. And then, their tight end, people are really high on. I'm high on him. I like him a lot. I went and picked him up in the waivers. Um, you
Travis
got
Hunter.
Travis Hunter in the second year. I could see a soft little rebuild. If they don't all get on the same page. And that's what it looks to be, is it looks to be a lot of people on different pages.
I actually don't think that's a burning self hot take, because there was rumors that Jacksonville was trying to move Trevor Lawrence to the Steelers in the offseason.
Okay, see, I didn't hear
Before
those.
the yeah, before the Aaron Rodgers uh saga started to heat up, there was strong rumor. There actually was very strong rumor, because I remember talking to Rod about it a couple of times, and Rod was open to Trevor Lawrence coming to the Steelers. So
Mm-hmm.
that was something that was strongly on the board. There wasn't a lot of suitors, but there was strong trade talks between Jacksonville and Pittsburgh in the offseason before the Aaron Rodgers thing. 'Cause I'm pretty sure Aaron Rodgers was like technically their their third choice, because they wanted to bring Fields back at a certain number. Then there was the Trevor trade talks, and then there was Aaron Rodgers. So
Gotcha.
I'm definitely with you on the board that um, Trevor Lawrence could be somewhere new next year. It's maybe he's written in chalk, but maybe Burrow's finding, maybe they split ways to get him in a better situation. They offload some money, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, maybe, I mean, we'll get to this in a little bit, but maybe Brock Purdy, like, maybe Mac Jones wins himself another job, or maybe Brock Purdy, a similar injury thing, because he's going to miss a couple weeks too. And if Mac Jones rips off a 4-game winning streak with that schedule, San Francisco, they don't like spending money on players either. So, maybe they make a trade to get Brock Purdy to somewhere with a team that needs a quarterback and doesn't want to use a first round draft pick to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a little foreshadowing there. Well, actually, we have that in the next game. So let's just parlay that into the 49ers taking down us, the New Orleans Saints 26-21. Mac Jones leading the way. Chris McCaffrey, looking very, very good through the year. I was skeptical of him, not of the skill set, not of a production drop off, but because of the injury bug. So far, he looks spry. He looks healthy. They're feeding him the rock
Mm-hmm.
a lot. They're feeding him the
Yeah.
rock a lot. And their all-pro tackle is still 36, going on 37 years old, which is old for an offensive tackle. That's honestly old for any player that's probably not a quarterback in the NFL. So the 49ers, they have the schedule to see them through. But one last point, I'll turn it over to you, is that the New Orleans Saints have looked solid through 2 weeks. Spencer
Mhm.
Rattler is kind of, he's holding his own, kind of managing his offense. And he's got some weapons. He's got Raheem Shaheed. He's got Alvin Kamara. Both of those guys have showed a lot of pop. Their offensive line has been solid. Their defense has been solid, okay, through 2 games holding their own, and they do have a first-year head coach. So the New Orleans Saints definitely don't look like they'll be drafting first this year. Will they be dropped in the top 5? Don't know. Their division is not the hardest division, so they can definitely knock off some teams, especially when they really find their own with Spencer Rattler, as he looks like he'll probably be their guy at least for the rest of this year. They do have Tyler Shuck waiting in the helms. But man, what did you take away from this game?
Yeah, no, man. I think you're kind of right on par with what a lot of people are thinking with Mac Jones out there in San Francisco. He looked good. He distributed the wealth really well. Jawan Jennings looked healthy and looked like the potential wide receiver one. I'm not gonna overreact to it. I still think Pearsall is gonna be the wide receiver one out there. Just watching him in college because he went to Florida for his last year, and then watching him, preseason last year, and then towards the end of the year, the wide receiver one potential is there. It's just
Yeah,
hitting you in the face. But Jawan Jennings looked good. Christian McCaffrey looked good. Mac Jones looked good. I mean, San Francisco could do a little something. And I think
yeah,
you're right. If Mac Jones continues on the track he's on, the problem is, man, and I think this is true with any backup quarterback, you're one stinker away from going your ass back to that bench.
yeah,
Like you're one stinker away from catching splinters in your ass for the rest of the year. So, with that being said, interesting to see what's going to transpire in San Francisco as the season progresses. The other thing I will say, I think you're spot on. My thing with the Saints, I think their offense is a lot better than what a lot of people gave them credit for. Although they do not have a wide receiver one, their best pass catcher is clearly by far Jawan Jennings. Him and Spencer Rattler, for some reason, have a connection, and Spencer Rattler is going to keep riding that horse till he can't no more. And I
yeah,
think it might have to be with, Jawan, doing a lot of, outs and everything else, and Spencer Rattler can't see over the line, but that's neither here nor there. So he's just going to keep feeding it to him.
yeah. I agree. Um, I'm just gonna mention this game. There's nothing to really take from it. So I don't know if you want to have a thing to say about it. Ravens mollywop the Browns
Yeah.
41-17. Joe Burrow. I mean, I believe I saw Dylan Gabriel actually came in and threw a touchdown at the game in the game there. So that's a little bit noteworthy. Myles Garrett is worth every penny they've paid to him. He's got like 4 or 5 sacks for two games, and we might be on Dylan Gabriel and Shador Sanders alert earlier than we thought. Ravens took care of business. Really not much to say about that. What say you?
Yeah, no, not much to say about it at all. Kind of shocking the lack of production from Derrick Henry. That one kind of shocked me a little bit. I was like, ooh, like didn't see that one coming.
He'll
Um,
he'll do that. He did that a couple of times last year because
yeah.
he was kind of like Saquon. He had some like 150, 175, 100 games, but he threw in a couple of like, especially in games that didn't matter. He can not show up some games. Lamar was hot, so they kept just kind of riding Lamar. Lamar was hot, and maybe they're trying to push for him to get another MVP again. Who knows?
Mhm.
But I am with you on the Henry bit.
Yeah, and then the one thing that was interesting, one thing you forgot to mention, first game for Quinshon Judkins, only
Oh
had 10
yeah.
carries for 61 yards, broke off a 30-yard run. The other thing, and this is just a off kilter topic, but it doesn't really, I mean, there's nothing to take from this game, but Harold Fannin Jr., be on the lookout for him in Cleveland. For some reason, Stefanski is drawing this kid up a lot of, he's got a good little route tree there. and
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see, especially with Njoku, and how high people were on Njoku. They're pretty much sharing targets right now, so
Yeah.
curious to see how that plays out.
And I took Njoku, so I'm slightly worried about that.
Yeah,
But I took Njoku because I knew last time Flacco was there, Njoku really took off that year. So that's
yeah,
kind of what I was thinking on. But Flacco's not looking serviceable hardly at all. He's looking very much every bit of 41 years old. Great arm, but can't move and not really playing all the time. So we'll see. But let's move on. Um, this next game was another ugly game. It was great for me because I had Amon-Ra in 2 of my 3
yeah.
leagues, and he completely went off. And for some reason, I just knew Amon-Ra. I just felt like Amon-Ra with a different offensive coordinator was going to get even more targets this year. But the Lions throttled the highest point scored this year, the Bears 52-21. They said they were kind of motivated to take down their former offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, which to me is just it's just a tad bit of petty because what if you're an offensive coordinator, especially one as highly touted as Ben, at some point you want, even if it's in your own division, you want to take a head coaching job. And
Hmm.
oftentimes offensive coordinators especially are taken for a head coaching job in their own division because the other teams get to watch them put put a whooping on them for a couple years in a row at least. So you really
Hmm.
can't blame Ben Johnson, but I get it. The NFL's hard enough and it's hard to get up for some games. So to be able to throw a little extra gas on the fire probably helped a little bit. And I know some Bears fans were salty about them hanging 50 points, but if you've been watching the Lions since Dan Campbell's taken over, dude goes on 4th down no matter what. He goes for it. He never lets off the gas no matter what the team is. So honestly, it was more of
Hmm.
the same.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was, and there's not a lot to really talk about in this game. I think it was more so. Sometimes I think players misspeak things or just use poor words and whatever you want to say, but I don't think it was we wanted to, show up for our old offensive coordinator. I think it was more of a Dan Campbell, a welcome to the big boys,
Yeah.
more so than it was like a get back. I don't think it was that. I think if you would have asked Dan Campbell if he was to sit here and have a bourbon with you or whatever, he'd be like, nah, I just wanted to welcome him to the big boys. It would be
Yeah.
what I did as a coach.
Yeah.
If when in my coaching days, if I had an assistant, I'd just be like, hey man, what, like if I had the opportunity, I'd just be like, hey man, this is what you got to go up against. Like this is the big boys now. You ain't just sitting over here, not wearing no flack for, when we win or lose. Now you wear the flag. So I think it was a welcome, but yeah, man, nothing really crazy to take home about that. Good to see. The one thing I will say, good to see Jameson Williams get a little more involved.
Yeah.
I'm holding him on my bench. He's on my bench right now, but I'm still holding on to him having like one of those breakout years. And I think it could be I think after the end of the year, in my eyes, I think you're talking about him and Amon-Ra the way you talk about T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, personally.
I agree. The only pushback I'll give that onto you is that they're back, just like the Cowboys are back feeding Ferguson a lot. They're back feeding Sam Laporta a decent amount,
Hmm.
and you still have the 2-headed running back monster. So sometimes there's just not enough balls to go around in the offense like that. But
Yeah.
Jameson Williams is a guy, like you said, he can easily have a 5 or 6 game stretch where he catches 6 balls for 130 yards and a touchdown in all those games. It's just the talent level he has. You get the ball in
Yeah.
his hands, and he's a game changer for sure. The
Dude,
tough
he's a
thing,
wide receiver. Yeah. Yeah, he's a wide
yeah,
receiver one on any other team. I mean, he's got that
yeah,
Randy Moss breakaway speed. I mean, you see it
yeah.
clear as day. So,
One of the better games, especially in the earlier slot, or actually it was in the second slot, um, the Broncos versus Colts. I actually didn't
mm,
watch a whole lot of this game, but I did go back and watch all the kind of like the all 22. I kind of watched the game with all the breaks and commercials and stuff, just because it was such an intriguing game, and I really wanted to see hone in on how Bo Nix played in this game and how Dane Jones bounced back for game 2. Good game all around from both teams. Broncos, Jonathan Taylor went off for the Colts, and this was a big Jonathan Taylor game. Daniel Jones still looked very, very solid as a starting quarterback. The Broncos looked like the Broncos, and honestly, Bo Nix, because I think he had 3 touchdowns in the first half, which was big for them. But then he came back and threw a couple picks in the second half, which kind of hurt
Mhm.
them. And I mean, the game honestly came down to, I think the Broncos were up 28-26, and it came down to a last minute field goal. Kicker missed the field goal initially, but the Broncos got called for a leverage call on using the center to try to hop over and block the field goal. So the guy got a second chance, and he nailed it on the second time. The Colts go on to take the game to go up 2-0. I've said most of what I've said. RJ Harris still looked solid. The Broncos are pretty much look how I thought they were going to look. Giving up a little bit more points than I thought they would, because I thought they were going to have a top 3 defense this year.
Mhm.
But what say you on the Colts and the Broncos outlook at the game, where these two teams may be headed going through this year?
Yeah, no, I think it's still too early to say like Daniel Jones is here, like he's arrived. I think it's too early for that, but I mean back-to-back games, man, he's putting together some numbers.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Jonathan Taylor looked good. Tyler Warren looked good. Tyler Warren's probably going to be your tight end one at the end of the year.
Might be
Um,
rookie of the year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Bo Nix looked back to form. The one thing that's interesting to me, and I'm a little bit salty about this because I bought stock in the guy. Evan Ingram is a bum. He's a bum. I was so excited for him to be in that offense with oh my gosh, the coach's name just slipped me.
Sean
Sean
Payton.
Payton. So excited for him to be in the Sean Payton offense and see what he could do. He's a bum. He's a bum. I wasted a pick. But it's all good. The one thing that stood out to me in this is the connection with Troy Franklin. It's a connection from college with Bo Nix. I think he's going to be your tight end one at the end of the year over Cortland Sutton. That's my opinion. Um, that's all I
Tight
got.
end one or wide receiver one?
Sorry, what did I say? Tight end one, wide receiver one.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah. I definitely think that's on the board. And one last thing I'll say about the Colts is I'm buying stock in the Colts, even though I picked the Jaguars to win that division thing.
Hmm.
But really pretty sure I picked the Colts. I can't remember if I picked the Colts to make playoffs or not. I think I picked the Patriots. If I picked the Patriots, I know I picked the Patriots. So I may switch the Colts out for the Patriots for that last playoff slot. But the Colts have really had the infrastructure there the past 2 seasons. Anthony Richardson just may be one of the maybe a Jamarcus, for a much different reason, a Jamarcus Russell
Hmm.
level swing and miss, even though Jamarcus went 1, and I think Anthony went 4th in the draft. I was talking to a guy about this in the gym, I think it was Sam, and I was like, when one quarterback pops, everybody for the next couple of drafts tries to look for that quarterback. I think the only exception to that has been Lamar Jackson. Josh Allen 100% got Anthony Richardson drafted and drafted high because they were looking for that next 6'5" runner of a quarterback, huge arm, inaccurate in college, but you can fix it in the NFL. Just like, no, Josh Allen is an outlier, just like Russell Wilson got Baker Mayfield and Johnny Manziel and Kyler Murray. He got all 3 of those guys drafted in the first round. And the only one I think that's really hit has been Baker. And even that took
Hmm.
some time to hit. I think Kyler's just too wild. You could argue Kyler's probably the best high school football player to ever play.
Hmm.
It was a great college football player, but just in NFL, it just his ceiling and floor are just too far apart for him and it's just hard. He's legitimate 5'9",
Yeah.
and when you see him on the field, he looks 5'7".
Yeah.
The talent, he's still a 4'4" guy, still has a huge arm, but it's just too wild of variance for him. Shane Steichen had them in the playoffs 2 years ago with Gardner Minshew, or knocking on the door. They came up 1 game short, and last year they just didn't have a quarterback. But all the other pieces have literally been there for 3 years running now, and you just insert Daniel Jones being a big, sturdy quarterback who could take some hits and deliver the ball where it gets the ball to the plate from making hand, and they're making plays for him. So I think there's a lot of stock to be bought in the Colts, especially in their division and with the schedule they have in front of them.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, man. I think Anthony Richards is an afterthought after this season. I watched him in college. I did not think he was a fifth. I think he went fifth overall, and I did not
Okay.
think he was a fifth overall pick. I agree with you. They're trying to find the next Josh Allen. Um, and dude, I got people that have personal ties to Anthony Richardson. No knock on him. It's just, hey man, maybe go try to be a tight end. I don't know, but you're too injury
Wide
prone, so don't even
receiver.
try to do that.
Golly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, go do something, like, but it just
Yeah.
ain't quarterback ain't it. So, it is
Yeah.
what it is, man. We can move on from that one.
Next game, not giving a whole lot of stock to this game either. Cardinals take down the Panthers
Yeah.
27-22. Panthers definitely going to be drafted. Panthers are better than they looked last year to start the year. I'll say that. Uh, I just think the quarterback Bryce Young. I just think again another small guy. I'm not a fan of small quarterbacks. When you see, the reason I give Trevor Lawrence a chance because I'll still never forget. There's a picture out there where Trevor Lawrence and Bryce Young are standing next to each other. Trevor Lawrence looks like an NFL quarterback, and Bryce Young looks like a high school quarterback. And
Mhm.
it's hard when you're that stature with not a huge arm coming from Alabama, where everything was relatively manageable. I don't want to say easy, but they were manageable when you're playing behind that O line with NFL running backs ready to go in a top 5 defense. And you go to the worst organization in the league. It's hard to work your way out of that when the physical intangibles aren't there and they're not there for Bryce Young. Cardinals, they handle business. They won the game. Every NFL win is a good winner. There's no easy or whatever wins in the NFL. I don't expect the Cardinals to win that division. I do expect them to be battling into November and maybe early December. And that's about it. But that's all I'll say about that game.
Yeah, I got nothing to add. Next.
Yeah. So we'll move on to I think most people game of the week is Super Bowl rematch. The Eagles taking down the Chiefs 20-7 in Arrowhead. I almost put money on this game, and I'm glad I did it. And big reason why I probably would have lost money, but I actually wised up. Actually, I had a buddy ask me, was I going to start Jalen Hurts this week? And I said no. I said one, because he's playing the Chiefs, but I said two, I actually think he's going to have a bad game. As I just There's not any quarterbacks outside of Josh Allen that have 3 good games in a row against the Chiefs,
Mhm.
and I bet against Jalen Hurts having a good game, and he had honestly probably one of the worst games of his rookie year. I think he had a 78 passer yard rating. He had 116 total yards. If you take away a 50-yard pass to Devontae Smith, like the dude doesn't even have 60 yards for the game. Saquon was kind of the saving grace for them. They probably gave Saquon more touches than they probably originally planned to, but they had to have the spark. Really, the only takeaway from this game for me was I am concerned about Travis Kelce because he has great moments, but then he has old man moment. He's in both games. He's had an old man moment, just like he had dropping or bobbling the touchdown catch that swung the Eagles, returning it back for 50 yards, returning the 7 points for them. And that was pretty much a game. When that had that happen, I was just like, I don't know if Mahomes has enough magic left to him. Even him throwing a 65-yard bomb, Tyquan Thornton, I just thought that was a nail in the coffin, and then it did end up being a nail in the coffin. I'm not overly concerned about the Chiefs outside of I think they have a bottom 5 running game in the NFL right now. The defense came back into form yesterday. They held everybody in check. And they let Saquon eat, but you got to let Saquon eat, in order to win that game. I'm not worried about the wide receivers because they're getting a Worthy back in week 3. They're getting Rasheed back in week 7. But I am legitimately worried about the running game. And as a
Mhm.
Chiefs fan, I would like to see them acquire a running back. I get it. Pacheco has our hearts, and Hunt has been a great story coming back off the street, getting his life together. But I'm not here for moral victories. I want real legitimate victories, and I want to see Brett Veach pull some magic out of hat and earn that big paycheck he's getting out of GM.
Yeah, no, I'm right there in line with you, man. I think there's some serious concerns about Philadelphia in the passing game, like there always has been. I think people try to let them kind of go by the wayside after winning the Super Bowl. And don't get me wrong, I think Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. I just don't think he's a good passer. There's nothing on him. He's a good quarterback, man. Like you can't say anything. It is what it is. But it's sad to your point. I mean, the Eagles are the Eagles. But to your point about the Chiefs, your Chiefs in particular, the running game is non-existent, man. Like sitting here looking at the stats right now, and you got Patrick Mahomes 7 carries for 66 yards. It's like that's tough, dude. When you're quarterback, and what year is this for Mahomes?
9.
Year 9, and he's your best option with his legs. Like, come on,
Yeah.
dude. Like, and that's sad to see for Andy Reid offense. Like, that is not okay. So curious, man. Curious to see how that plays out. You know, when we get to week 4, I think we're going to be having a lot more interesting conversations coming into covering these games.
Yeah, for sure. We'll move on from that to the last game of the day. A team I picked to win their division. It might have been 1 year early on them. The Falcons taking down the Vikings 22-6. I was not comfortable putting any money on that game because I thought, and I still think the Vikings are a good team.
Mm-hmm.
But them getting 6 points and JJ McCarthy going out with an injury, he's going to be out for week 3. And even though Justin Jefferson seems to be quarterback proof, I was having a conversation with Andre that, you know, at some point that's like, I kind of I got mentioned before, I kind of have a rule that when a guy finishes RB1 and wide receiver 1, I'm just apprehensive of drafting him next year. It is not always on the player. Sometimes it's the pieces around the players that could be a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of wonky, that the team may still win and they still may be a good player, but fantasy and production wise, it just the numbers may not be there that next year. And that's seemed to be true by Tyreek 2 years ago, Christian McCaffrey last year. Jamar Chase may still be great. We'll see how Jake Browning prepares, but it's like maybe teams shift that, like, hey, we're just gonna blitz Jake Browning to death and hope that he just throws the ball up because the Bengals O line is not that great, and if teams just start blitzing them and hoping that Jake Browning throws 5 picks a game, like how effective is Jamar Chase really going to be, especially on the deeper route? But he's the type that you can throw a bubble screen at him and he could take it 80 yards and still hurt you. And that's where he's even different than Justin Jefferson, who's probably the best route runner in the game. You mentioned Dante Adams. Justin Jefferson probably would like to throw his name in the hat of like best pure route runner and hands in the game, even though Justin Jefferson will drop a ball or two in a big moment. But
Yeah.
this game was more about the Falcons. I told my client AJ, if I see a quarterback willing to rock a do-rag every game, no matter what the race is, that I'm going with that quarterback.
So you're telling me right
And
now, if a white dude rolls out there in a do rag, you're rocking with them.
if Joe Burrow or Baker Mayfield, I think they'd be the only
Yeah.
2 white guys to do it. If they roll into a game with a do-rag, I'm putting $100 in them to throw for 300 yards or 4 touchdowns. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Hey, listen, to each their own. To each their own.
But,
But
the
man,
Falcons real quick, the Falcons offense, Bijan looks like absolute RB1, even when he doesn't
yeah.
score it, because I think Tyler Algier had the touchdown. But the dude just is a yards machine, whether it's on the ground or catching the balls out of the backfield. And Michael Penix seems like a good distributor of the ball, and I think they'll round him to form. So I think, again, like I predicted, I think the Falcons are going to have a top 7 or 8 offense this year, which I think will be good enough to have them in the playoffs this year. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, man, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. I'm actually seeing what there's 9 minutes left in that Tampa Bay Houston game. Houston leading Houston down 14-10.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, man, I agree. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens in Minnesota with JJ being out next week. I don't know. I'm not familiar with who their backup is. Do you?
Because Daniel Jones was their guy, and he decided to go to Indy, bet on himself to go to Indy, which was a
Mm-hmm.
great decision. So I think it's back to Nick Mullins, because I don't remember
Okay.
them bringing in anybody else. So I think it's back to Nick Mullins.
Yeah, I'm unclear, but regardless, yeah, no, Bijan is clear RB1. There's no doubt about it. Um, but yeah, man, I've just again, I think with both of these, too early to tell. Um, but we'll see. I just thought it was kind of, I mean, it was a field goal game for the entire time. Kind of impressive though that their kicker comes off of wherever he was, Parker Romo, against his old team, and ends up going 5 for 5 with an extra point. So really interesting. So we'll see. But yeah, man, I don't really have too many hot takes on this game. I like the Falcons offense this year, and that's about it.
The Viking, this is a little noteworthy if you like this guy a little bit, but Carson Wentz is their backup quarterback.
Okay.
At least they have a guy with a big guy with a solid arm who has some skin in the game, even though with a few stretches. He's been a kind of a journeyman now. But again, with Kevin
Mm-hmm.
O'Connell, at least Carson Wentz can throw the deep ball and is not afraid to throw the ball into coverage. He will throw some picks, but he'll also make some good plays. So maybe we'll see what Carson Wentz looks like, next week at least.
Yeah. Yeah. That is noteworthy.
Yeah. Well, man, we've been at it a little bit over an hour now, so I think we both got some things to knock out. My wife's actually going out of town for the rest of the week, so I
Okay.
spend a little bit of time with her before she heads out. Although she's completely independent of me, whether I'm here or there or not. But I at least want to act like I'm being a good husband.
I know that's
Selfish.
right.
But man, good podcast, good coverage, and let's close out watching these Monday Night Football games. We'll be back next week.
Absolutely. Peace, y'all.